Hail, what up, y'all? I am back. Um, we're continuing on with the Nightmare franchise. This is pretty much the last one. This movie came out in 2010. We are talking about the Nightmare reboot. This movie is pretty bad. I don't. You got to remember too. This came out in the era of reboots, and you already had the Halloween reboot, which, to be fair, I think the Halloween remake, the first one was good or decent. Then you had the Friday remake, which was pretty good. So, but for some reason, this one was just. And the fucked up thing is, Jackie Earl Haley. It's not his fault. I actually like his performance. This was a year after Watchmen, so everyone loved him as Rorschach. So they were like, okay, let's make him Freddy. The issues with this movie. I also think the girl who plays Nancy in this just wasn't good. Her Rooney Mara is her name. Was not good. Isn't Rooney Mara to me came off like an actress you would see in this. An ironic thing is you have Katie Cassidy who was fucking who ends up becoming Felicity in Arrow. She was way better in this. I think, and I'll get to it. So the movie starts off. I didn't see this in theaters. I remember it coming out, and I watched it like a few years later. Because, like I said, I didn't get into horror till way later. So this movie starts off with Katie Cassidy's character, and I guess her boyfriend, at the Springwood Diner, who's played by Kellen Lutz, who's like a popular guy at the time. He falls asleep. He ends up getting killed by Freddy. I think, and the dream scenes were good, especially like the dream scenes in the boiler room. I think if we just got more of that, this film could have been really good. But like I said, so he gets killed, and it looks like he killed himself. They end up, and this is where we're introduced to this universe's Nancy Holbrook, played by Rooney Mara. I don't think she was good, and I'm just gonna spoil it. She should have died in this movie. I think if you wanted to make it different from the original, you know what? You kill Nancy. That would have been an awesome twist to differentiate from the original. Because there's so many moments, like, you have the shot where Freddy, where Nancy's in the in the bathtub, and Freddy's glove comes out. You have that scene. I'm thinking I'm trying to remember if there was a skin the cat kill in this, but very much like a lot of moments where it's like this is just the first movie. They should have just went their own direction. That would have been interesting if you just killed Nancy, because I don't think Rooney Mara did a good job. I just don't. And Rooney Mara, even in real life, I think later on shit on horror movies. So it's like she just doesn't fit. She to me should have died. It would have been an interesting twist if they had made Katie Cassidy's character. I don't. I think it says here her name is like Kira or Chris with a K. She should have been the lead. I think she would have been. She would have probably did a better job. I just. I get it's Nancy, but you would have been it would have been an awesome twist to the original story. So, Dean's funeral. Um, then she pretty much recalls seeing Freddy again. Um, Chris, Katie Cassidy gets killed off. I don't like that she gets killed off so early. Like none of the a lot of the human characters in this were just boring. I think that is my biggest issue with this film. Well, besides the whole making Freddy outright a pedo, it was like and I'll get more into that later. But like this, a lot of the human characters were just boring. Like they were characters I feel like I would watch because at the time you had shows like I'm trying fuck Pretty Little Liars. Like I feel like a lot of the characters from this would have been in that or something like that. They don't fit like Nightmare, and so Chris gets killed. Um, this is where we learn Freddy's name, and I guess you kind of have a throwback kill because her ex boyfriend was there and she gets killed while he was there, so very much similar to the original. So, so Jesse gets killed when he falls asleep in the jail. See, stuff like this. Now that like Very much. So it's like the dude from the first movie, he gets killed in the jail cell, and I'm gonna look at the exact way they die and see if like, well, they switched the deaths around, but you can tell like it's very much just a ripoff. Like, well, I get you want to like so many callback, like at least like it or not with what Rob Zombie's Halloween did. At least that first half of some the movie was something different. Yeah, did the final act. You know, once we get to like where Myers arrives in Haddonfield, yeah, it gets very much like the original. But at least it tried something different. Even the Friday remake, yeah, there are moments where you can say this kind of similar to the first two films, but at least in this, it was like in that it was still at least somewhat original. This was just outright. There are just so many scenes are just outright pulled from the original. Like I said, the shower scene, the 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 girl's boyfriend dying, even the girl dying in the bed with her boyfriend, and the cops thinking he did it. That was from the original. It's like try some new ideas. At least the other two remakes, like I mentioned, tried something different. So he dies. Nancy starts to realize the connection between all of them. And this is, I guess, Quentin is introduced. He's like the love interest, basically. And they've realized they attended school. And this is where we're introduced to Freddy. So basically, this is where, okay, it's pretty much out. This is where they start realizing Freddy touched them as kids. And hold on before I get into it. Here's the issue I have with this. One, they should, if you're gonna have him be a pedo, why not just have him be a pedo killer? Where he, if you're gonna do it, at least do go. It makes no sense. Why would he, quote, touch the kids and then just not kill them? And then the other thing they try to do in this movie, they try to make it seem like, oh, maybe he was innocent, but then it gets scrapped in the end of the film once we get to the final act because that's pretty much when it's confirmed. It's really disappointing that this was Jackie Earl Haley's performance after fucking Watchmen is this movie. But continue, like, it just was dumb. I understand Wes Craven did say that in the original script he was a pedo, but I bet you he was still gonna probably still be a killer. And I actually like it better when it was implied. I don't like it when it's outright. You outright make him a pedo, and then you try to play around with is he guilty, but then you don't even go all out on it. You just scrap it and make it. It's disappointing that this is the direction they. And then we're stuck with pretty much these two for the rest of the film. you know, this. Oh yeah, so her mom tells her about the story of Freddy. How he basically and then and this is where basically we get the still the kind of the same origin where he was burned by the parents. This is where yeah, Quentin falls asleep and he sees what happened. He sees the parents burning Freddy, and then the like this is where like they question it. Like they confront the parent. Like in the dream, I guess they confront or no, and they confront Quentin's dad about the murder and basically trying. This is where it starts. Oh, is he guilty or not? So Nancy falls asleep. Freddy almost kills her, but Quentin ends up waking her up, and she brings a piece of his sweater. So pretty much another callback to the first one. Instead of the piece of sweater, it was the hat. But And then yeah, they find Freddy's magic cave where basically yeah, Freddy was touching the kids. I don't like this shit. I don't like that they outright make him a pedo, but then just skip. What made the Springwood killer story interesting, Springwood slasher story interesting, was that's what drove. And I understand Wes Craven had to change it, but and he wanted the original intent was to make him that. But I actually like it better when it's implied, outright making him, and then fucking for 2 seconds teasing like, oh, he might have been innocent. Nope, he's not. You know what? That would have actually been another thing. You should have just did that. That would have actually been interesting if they actually went that direction where he was innocent and the parents were overzealous and they killed him and then he just wants to take vengeance. That would have been an interesting twist on the story. You know what? If you're gonna do a reboot, do a twist of some fucking kind. Don't just do the basically. Oh, here's this scene from this movie. And like I said earlier, you know, you have the scene where she's in the shower, like in the bath. That's the most blatant one because that's like one of the most famous shots from the original film. Is Nancy sleeping in the shower with Freddy's glove rising out of the water? You know, it just. But like I didn't need to see a shitty version of. And unfortunately, the thing is, Jackie Earl Haley was not horrible. I think if they had given him a good script, you had a better human characters or better, you know, victims as I call them. I think this movie could have been so much. Rooney Mara was not the right pick to play Nancy, or like I said, it would have been an interesting twist if you had killed her. You know what? That would have been an interesting twist, and you have Katie Cassidy's character be the lead. I think she's a at least in this movie. I think she would have been a better lead. I don't know, man. I just feel like they should have. If you're gonna do a remake, do something different. Not make Freddy a pedophile, but then toy. Like it would have been interesting if he was actually innocent, and maybe it was somebody else. I don't know. So yeah, they find it and they pull him, and basically another one of we're gonna pull Freddy to the real world. We've done that a million fucking times. That's the other aspect about these movies I get a little annoyed by is how many times do we have to do, oh, Freddy, we're going to just pull him in the real world to beat him. That has been done to fucking death. So, they bring Freddy into reality. She ends up cutting, so Nancy ends up killing Freddy, basically. Oh, and then you have another callback to the original where Freddy pulls, you know, everything seems fine, and then, you know, her mom gets pulled in through a mirror by Freddy. So basically, a callback to the. This film is awful. This is probably one of the worst remakes. The human characters weren't good. Jackie Earle Haley, if they had given him something to work with, it could have worked. I also just make getting rid of the. Then here's the other issue that's the reason Freddy has the razor glove is because he was using that as the Springwood slasher. Why does he have it in this now? When you were just having him just be a pedophile. And I like I said earlier, I like the implied, it being implied he was one. I don't like it outright. And then if you're gonna do it, at least have him kill the kids. Like this doesn't make sense. Then you can at least justify why he has the clawed glove. I don't even think they go into why he has it in this. And the kills were okay. They weren't eh. Jackie Earle Haley was good, but they didn't give him anything to work with. Rooney Mara was not a good lead, in my opinion. Um, this was awful. There was no need. There's really no reason for this movie to exist. They could have. It's just like I feel like they wasted potential. Because I'm not against slashers. Slashers are the few exceptions where I'm okay with a reboot or a remake or whatever. But you gotta have your own take on it, like what Rob Zombie did with Halloween 1, not the second one. What he did with the first one. You know, I get people don't like that movie, but at least he made it his own. Yeah, does the once we get to Haddonfield, like I said earlier, it plays out very much like the first movie. But even he changes certain things, like having Michael kill Laurie's adopted parents. That's interesting. That's something new. The Friday remake. You know, you had Jason. Granted, I'm not a fan of it, but him kidnapping, the whole traps thing. You have little things that are callbacks to, like I said earlier. You have his mom, so that could be like the part one, and then you had Jason and the sack over his head, which is kind of an homage to part two. Then he finds the hockey mask, but it's still largely its own movie. These movies are their own movies. With this one, it's not. It like so many scenes where it's just like, okay, this is from the first one. Oh, in Quentin basically was Johnny Depp's character if he didn't die. Yeah, he would have. He's basically Johnny Depp's character, but yeah, if instead of killing him off, that's the only difference. This there was no exciting characters in this. I think like a lot of the kills were kind of repetitive. The whole we got to bring Freddy to the real world to beat him. We've done that already. We did that several films. We've done that for several films that's been done. And the biggest thing, unfortunate thing, is this is a movie. You got to keep in mind, Jackie Earle Haley did this probably right after he was done with Watchmen. So I'm assuming they probably started shooting this film sometime in 2009. So it's unfortunate that this is what his performance was after, you know, how his amazing performances, Rorschach, and then I'm not gonna say he's horrible, but they gave him nothing to work with, and I also am not a fan of the makeup because they went with too much of a burnt. I liked Freddy's burn face because it very much was a character. His burn face in this was just it's just burned. Don't watch this movie. I mean, if you have to just to complete it, I guess, but really don't. Out of 10, like a 4. This film is awful. Fuck this movie. Um, Fuck Rooney Mara for shitting on horror movies, but then this is your performance you give in this. So yeah, I love the Nightmare franchise. I just think largely the first three are the only good ones, and then Wes Craven's New Nightmare is pretty good. But and then Freddy vs. Jason if you count it. So there's like five, but then like the other ones are just horrible. And this one don't even count it. I mean, you just look up a kill scene on the internet and you'll get the gist of the movie. You don't need to watch this whole thing. It was really stupid with the whole making him an outright pedo and then trying to toy around with, oh, he's the innocent, but then you know that's not the direction they were going because they dropped that immediately. No, yeah, no, he's guilty. Like, immediately. It was like almost short lived how long they like, oh, maybe he was innocent, and then they only toy with it for like a little bit, and then nope, he's out. He's already guilty. So fuck this movie, but the Nightmare franchise is good. So tomorrow I'm gonna be ranking the DCU movies, and yeah. Other than that, yeah. All right, guys. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Peace.